welcome back to the MSI 2018 group stage and our very next match, Europe's Fnatic versus Vietnam's EVS Esports, a nail-biter to be sure. My name is David Victorly, joined here by Chris, Papa Smithy Smith, and Martin DeFiscio, looking off to the far right. Gentlemen, are you ready? This match is so important for Fnatic.
I'm so nervous, man.
You should be, but I'm feeling blessed because I think we're guaranteed tiebreakers. We're all about the end of the group stage. So much on the line, and no closer to knowing either top 4 and whoever's at the top either.
And we have to remember, EVS, they don't play for anything. They're just playing spoiler right now. They can go in with whatever pick and ban face they want, play whatever play style they want. Fnatic have everything to lose. They set themselves in such a good position, if we go back a few days, to actually make it into top 4. But if they lose here, there's a chance they don't even make it.
Yeah, right now, Fnatic and Team Liquid are the two teams battling for 4th place, and they both sit at 4 and 5. Fnatic playing EVS right here. Of course, EVS have lost a lot of games in a row, whereas, of course, Team Liquid have a much harder opponent later on when they play World and Never Give Up, and how those matches fall will determine if it was tiebreaker or an automatic seed for 4th place.
And we should definitely rewind to how Fnatic versus EVS in the first round, Robin, when that was all about the split push from Stark, not on his usual Ornn duty. He was the one that delayed that game, delayed the finish by Fnatic for over 20 minutes with smart split push play.
Yeah, it was really hard to deal with. They needed caps in the end to start playing 1v1 against him and actually win that one. They almost lost the game multiple times, both at Baron and also back at their own Nexus. But this game here, Camille is still left open. Teams have also figured out that if you ban Tristana, you greatly reduce the champion pool of Reckless from 2 to 1, and that is what they're going for.
Trundle right off the bat. That Sivir is still available, the one you're talking about that Rec likes to play so much, his most played of MSI so far. VCS's turn, EVS Esports. Can they double their wins here at the end of the day? This will be, no matter what, their last game of MSI 2018. They will be heading home after this one to prepare for the summer split and maybe get back into Worlds. I'm going to say maybe an Ezreal here for Slay early on, and now a second pick.
A lot of power picks for the tournament are left open, but power picks for EVS in particular, that's where those things might disagree. Usually they've needed a combat advantage on Yijin. The Graves and the Kha'Zix have that against the Trundle. The Skarner's a bit of a different flavor. He can skirmish early. It's more about the early impact of that first ult.
And here we go. The Sivir gets locked in right away. No one at all is surprised by this champions.
Miles shock.
Wow, Reckless on his absolute comfort right here, and probably the most important game he's played so far today. You could argue the ELCS finals, but now at this point, of course, yeah.
I mean, once you then won the EU finals, the next step is MSI. And if you are Fnatic, the goal, of course, is to go to top 4 after you win a bunch of games and you actually look really good with some very creative mid lane picks. They actually went away from it yesterday, tried to put caps back on Yasuo earlier, but that was, of course, banned away in this one.
I mean, they acquitted themselves very well this tournament. In general, I think Fnatic caught a lot of people's attention, had a lot of individual outplays. It's probably a career-building tournament for Caps, but kind of like what you're suggesting, the magnifying glass on Reckless a little bit. When fully set up by his team for success, he hasn't really stepped up. But as a secondary carry, he's been very good.
Very, very true. But one of the problems for them with the Tristana and the Sivir is that it's a slow 80 carries. You know, 3 item 80 carries before you really start being very impactful in the games. So a lot of the other teams that can play things like Israel, as we see here.
Yep, 2 item spike.
Yeah, exactly. 2 items. They can start being really, really useful. And then Fnatic have to actually play pretty disciplined and play pretty clean in the mid game to simply avoid the enemy team from getting big advantages. And we saw against Team Liquid yesterday, they were not able to do that. They lost every objective possible and got set almost too far behind.
We're seeing here as the picks and bans coming through, EVS having more early game power as well. The Morgana for the support lane. We see what that 2-on-2 is in the bot lane. You expect Ezreal Morgana to have the advantage there. They keep Reckless under his turret, and that can help Yijin navigate his jungle as well in the Skarner. Can be a very fast clear and can get a lot done. Maybe even an early Drake or something in this game.
Now we need EVS to select 2 solo lanes. One of them will be the first pick on the red side. They've banned away their own comfort of Stark jumping onto the Ornn. Does suggest a top lane counter pick, but then the mid laner will be left a bit more exposed. When they've had to blind pick mid lane, it's been the Cassiopeia that can certainly be preyed upon. Very interesting to see which lane they actually blind pick in this case.
I mean, there's still things like Malzahar that they could actually take for Warzone. We've seen a lot of teams find success with it if they don't play around their mid lane very often, but this is going to be Stark blind picking the Gnar on his side. Makes it a little bit safer, I feel, for Fnatic. They don't have to fear that Gnar is just going to finish the game in his side lane. Oh, let's see.
Whippo looking at Aurelia to counterpick Gnar with. 10 seconds to go until he's forced to lock in his champion. And still looking at something very spicy. I do want to see what actually comes through here. Some smiles from Reckless. Gangplank, okay. And it's interesting because we have seen both sides' matchup considered positive. Gangplank going to have to be withstanding damage, but should outscale and do plenty of damage later on.
It did evolve into being a net positive matchup for the Gangplank as the season went on, at least in the LCK, as we got better and better at delaying, at getting through those awkward early levels. The Rageblade Gnar, actually, at 2 items, has a lot of threat onto Gangplank, so the build coming through from Stark will be interesting, and no surprise that when it comes down to blind picking a mid laner, Caps goes something that has worked previously in the Zoe.
And something where he can really carry. I think that's the most important thing for Fnatic, and something they realized today after the Karma pick yesterday. They need something where it's Caps who can be a huge, huge playmaker. We get that Cassiopeia. You highlight just before here, Papa Smithy. It has been a go-to pick for Warzone, but rarely very effective.
Now, the thing about it, though, is they've had to blind pick it very early just to pick it up at all, and they kind of had drafts fall around them where Cassiopeia had to deal with the threat of an ore, and they had to deal with a lot of other factors that kind of took away the advantage of her in the lane. In terms of the lane here, we actually have a volatile one against the Zoe.
Zoe Cassiopeia going to be a pretty big one there. Of course, Cleanse on Cassio, no surprise, get around those bubbles, but without a blink on the kit, Pillars are still very good crowd control. The chase down could be had. Keep mounting, we've seen Skarner get some really good ganks off into a Zoe as well. No natural escapes there either. As you mentioned, a volatile lane. Warzone said he wanted to come to this tournament and prove his dominance, knock everyone else's teeth out, Mr. 1,000 push-ups himself. And, well, in his last game at MSI, he's up against maybe the best performing mid laner in the tournament in Caps, who had looked so good for so long. And now Fnatic at 4 and 5 need to build some space above Team Liquid to make that run to the top 4 better.
That is the important thing. If Fnatic lose and Team Liquid win later today, Fnatic will drop out and will not make it into the playoffs.
And they will only have themselves to blame. They certainly have on paper the easier opposition. Right on the last day, last match of the tournament, scheduled at least, it is Team Liquid against RNG, who are in fantastic form.
Fun one to watch. So final time these coaches shake hands, final time these two teams will play at MSI 2018. We will bid adieu to EVS Esports and Fnatic. Hope that will not be the case for them. Droxa, one of those players who have kept them in this tournament. Those Baron steals against Flash Wolves were mandatory to win that game yesterday. And let's see if it's up to him once again as we get onto the Rift.
Let's check the level 1 here. We've seen Fnatic with some good aggressive ones, and we also saw them actually give up first spot against Team Liquid yesterday, very early on in the game. Crucial for Fnatic and their confidence in this game that they don't fall behind very quickly.
And the evolution of the level 1's been super fun to track. Yesterday, we were seeing so many 1 minute 30 invades just as a buff was about to show up from game 1, where Peanut and friends jumped over and killed MLXG at his blue. So just because there's a defensive fan at 50 seconds doesn't mean the action isn't about to ramp up.
I also really want to follow the bottom lane because there's so many eyes on Reckless specifically and his overall performance. So it's been tough for him. It's been very hard for him to do well in the laning phase. A lot of times he had to concede a lot of pressure and see the enemy AD carry just smack away on his turret and fall behind in CS. This is again against a double range lane. And there's also that TP on Slay to just instantly get him back in lane after first back. That is a lot of pressure coming from EVOS' side.
Slay gets a free ward thanks to Kleptomancy, so it's a little division down with his trinket at the beginning, but can certainly keep track of everything else. And Brox actually will be forced to kite away this early invade from EVOS. Temporary 3v2, now 3v3 as Reckless rejoins, and they're going to say, you know what, afraid enough of this one. They're going to let this one go back to Brox, and he will get his red without too much more difficulty.
Oh, EVOS actually gambled on Broxen not starting on that red buff, seeing as they didn't even want to fight over anything. Level 1, you don't want to deal with GP. He can actually deal a lot of damage to you, but on the return, sadly, for Whippo, there's, of course, a range advantage for Stark.
With Grasp, it makes it pretty nice. You heal, you do extra damage in those Qs. It's pretty easy to stay in combat. Once again, just lots of Grasp procs in a row, and Stark forced to leave his own lane. Oh my gosh, Whippo doing beautifully here in this matchup.
Right, awkward, he's being chased out at level 1. Now, because it's not Klepto, the profit margin's a bit lower for the Gangplank. He hasn't invested in quite the same stocks that we usually see him in. But lane control as a GP, such a big thing as the game goes on. And Cap's doing a bit of a scouting mission of his own.
Yeah, I think he knows that Yijin had to start on the bottom side after that late invade. And if we can walk in, not being afraid of a jungler. Brox is already killing his blue buff, and now he will be double buff, potentially looking for an invade.
And this does mean that Fnatic in general will have a lot of information about where Yijin is going, having seen that the camp hasn't been started top side. They know he's bot side the map. So right now, when it comes to Broxer, he has so many different options because he knows exactly where Skarner is.
And Warzone loses a bunch more health right now, and this is looking like a very good game for Fnatic, who did get knocked down earlier today, but this wouldn't be great for them.
Exactly. I think just the best thing you ignore champions. I actually see top lane.
Just split from the team. The damage will register with all the early gold that EVS picked up.
The relic shield is 2/3 of the way towards quest completion, so Yijin is not that far away from having sights to the jungle.
If we just pan up to the Baron, there is a tiny ward being placed behind it that's not being spotted. This one is actually the only thing giving Fnatic information on what's happening around the Baron. I think EVS should have either use the sweeper in there just to check, or worst case, place their own control ward. For now, though, Yijin is setting up for potential flank. This could still be huge for them.
They find a slow in a Brox. The chase in actually forces the flash into Brox, but now being spotted up by Stark on the right-hand side. And puts a bit of damage forward there. Pillar in the disengage. Yijin couldn't quite find his target, but Reckless, Hailsong, and Brox are now all missing flashes. No summoners burn for EVOS. Round 2 might look a bit better, but Slay is 1/2 for his health right now. Might have to back off for a while. Wait for this Ocean regen to kick in.
And the ward on the pit is once again the MVP. You want a control ward on the pit and then in front of it to stop anyone coming out. They eventually problem solve smart. EVOS. And now, as Fnatic, you don't have the luxury to be as far back.
And they don't really have anyone who fully wants to face check this. Like, Broxer will still die very fast against all the members. They're starting it now. Fnatic, they need to go in and stop this.
That's now both blue triggers down. Can they find themselves a fight? Cannon Brox is on into the front line to look for Hailsong. Down to 1,000 HP into the front. The traps to the pull back in though. And they get cast, but a huge barrel explosion. Cannon whip both feet. The carry, Brox certainly cannot. Hailsong forced to run 2 kills already for EVOS. Another barrel, that one though not a crit, doesn't do quite the damage he needs. As turrets fall from minion pushing, Fnatic finally get one to the board out of mid lane, it looks like. EVOS very, very low, 5 versus 3 on the map.
Ocean Drakes will start to spawn, and remember there's still a threat on the... back.
Good oranges.
It's just so hard for Reckless to push damage with no backline, and like you say, someone coming in to force them away.
Fnatic's base to the bottom. Left, there's no easy way out. Whippo pretty much surrounded in this one. Doesn't get that barrel either. The slow, the twin fangs are in, the poison. The kill comes through for Warzone. TP in for Slay to rejoin.
And we see that fight here. We talked about how to start the Baron and turn for the fight. If you're EVOS, you're so far ahead. Your AD carry is already insanely strong, and Reckless only sitting on 1.5 items. Just not enough damage coming from his side. Only Whippo's big barrel actually did something.
So Capcom's got this fight, 800 HP, not gonna find the steal. Broxton nowhere near in range and gets spotted out for another kill. Now EVOS finds their 10th.
From behind, it's so hard for Fnatic to do anything because Sivir usually does damage as a product to how strong her front line is. Her front line is very, very weak early in the game. They have to face out and give up their health bars in order to contest the Baron. Then Reckless is zoned out and everyone on EVOS may be blinking, but still safe.
Yeah, so now he enters the fight here after the big hit comes in onto the back line, but there's just no time for Fnatic to really start hitting anyone.
And Reckless puts in, what, 3-4 autos onto Stark. He never even gets a bounce onto anyone else because the health bars have to be sacrificed just to check the Baron buff. That's the reality of when this comp falls behind.
And then chase down, of course, there's just so much to use. Even the Cloud Rig kicking in for a little bit as well, and not a lot people could have done about that one.
So Yijin looking for another one. Still only QSS on one member, which is of course the Braum. That means that both Caps and Reckless are fairly easy targets for Yijin. Caps actually currently sitting on Ghost on his side, so not even a flash to get away if anything should happen. He was still in full control. They have all the damage in their favor, and they have the engage.
Seeing them continue the siege here to see if Slay already had his Seraph's Embrace, but if he doesn't, he's so close. Only 26 minutes into the game.
big chunk. Of course, you expect if Caps was 5-0 instead of 0-5, maybe Slay's at 10% for this one. Does get the poke to knock down that cannon minion, but it's not going to be enough. Turret will still fall. Sad for Caps, has quite a bit of deaths here. Of course, this team is still alive based on how Liquid plays later on today. Fnatic fans can still hold out hope, but EVOS looks like they are about to end their MSI on a win. They feel pretty good for their fans out here.
Earliest transformation of the tournament for this 3-item double tier upgrade on the Ezreal. Serf's around 25 minutes here, which is insanely early. And a power that's loaded. He's got the defensive shield, 40% CDR. The damage doesn't need to be introduced, and EVOS continue to play the map, and Fnatic have to hope they're playing one lane, looking for a turnaround. That's the best they can hope for.
They're hoping EVOS to stop pushing down and get an open inhib very quickly. That kind of is the last defense you tend to have. The moment these inhibitors start cracking, it's just impossible for you because you have nowhere you can safely actually sit and defend. And suddenly you got to deal with super minions. EVOS, they have all the Drakes, which also means, worst case for them, if we do go past 35 minutes, well, their Elder Drake is going to be massive. And Fnatic's, just like yesterday against Team Liquid, it's going to be a useless Elder Drake.
And even before Elder, honestly, this is not a bad Drake setup for what you're up against. Caps is going to get a lot of poke down. He's going to chunk Slay to, half HP, and then 3 seconds later, he's back up to a healthy threshold to keep fighting. So this actually lines up well with the game state.
I do want to note that Stark is building purely for lane here. Black Cleaver, Frozen Mallet, that's the standard now build for a long time. The Rage Blade third, your timing here is always up to be decided. With the Rage Blade, you have that Hyper and Mini Gnar form proccing every 2 autos. You just kill Gangplank, and he hasn't gone for the very early Sterix Gauge, so he cannot really enter lane, especially when that item is complete.
And this will be another game where all the European fans are going to look at the draft. And they're going to look at specifically the bot lane and this Sivir pick. And I think very few people are sitting at home right now thinking to themselves, this makes perfect sense. Of course you should pick Sivir here. He's the only AD carry doing it right now. Almost all the other AD carries are aiming for strong bot lanes where they can try and win or where they spike much earlier in the game. So when you have these moments where your mid laner maybe does not get ahead, your AD carry can then take over. But that's not happening for Fnatic, and that's why Yijin could just camp mid.
And early in the tunnel is saying, where is the Caitlyn? Another 3-item AD carry when it comes to really turning on in the edge. Zeal really getting there with a second Zeal item. That's a champion with an impressive laning phase, so you can kind of understand the introduction. Sivir has a passive laning phase and takes a lot longer to get online, whereas with Slay, it feels like every item that came in, he got immeasurably further ahead of this Sivir until 40 minutes in the game.
Mention some other AD carries like the Rage Blade ones, which are not being played by Fnatic. Kog'Maw, Varus, Kai'Sa, these kind of picks that we see a lot of other teams favor, because on one item, you can actually start dealing pretty decent damage in these fights here. But the situation is that Fnatic tried to get Caps and Whippo ahead, but Yijin, he said, nope, that's not happening. I'm going to gank those 2 lanes.
Yeah, it is an interesting story. MSI has been a tournament, it feels like, of teams playing their own styles to a certain degree, and some of them have worked out, and some of them, of course, have not. Fnatic, of course, still in that running for a playoff spot as we redirect to this game state as it stands. Baron buff has timed out. The outer turret line is gone, but inhibitors yet to crack. We have seen Fnatic make some very big base defenses before. If Reckless does get to that 5, 6, sometimes even 7, in the way it looks like for him sometimes, state, that is still a win condition in itself. And he's getting close to that one, honestly. There's only about 600 gold to go until he's online with that IE, and suddenly he can start shredding champions.
Yeah, I would actually say it's the only win condition left, in the playbook for Fnatic. It is simply wait for Sivir to get her items and hope that EVOS cannot instantly grab the next Baron and use it to close out the game.
We can talk about what EVOS can do, but the problem here is for Fnatic, what can they do? Gangplank can't enter lane against Gnar. He's hit these 3 items and make him unassailable in a split push. The Zoe can't actually get enough setup to actually look for a trouble bubble because she's just dealing with minion waves. It doesn't feel like Fnatic can force anything more with EVOS. We've said from the mid-game onwards with the Skarner, their force is ultra reliable.
It is, but there's about 1 minute until they'll be able to force something with this Baron, and that timing should line up with Reckless affording Infinity Edge. He's right at that mark, and if his team takes the CS from him, I think it's a misplay here. You can see that gold is very close. I think it's about 1,300 to finish IE from this state.
And then the important thing for Fnatic, and that's kind of the problem for a lot of teams if you fall this far behind, but the important thing is the next team fight you take, you cannot lose. If you lose that fight, game is done. And that's always the issue when you really fall far behind and you lose all the objectives, all the turrets, is that you simply cannot be allowed to make any mistakes, or the enemy team will just be so close to your base and typically so far ahead that you just end the game. And that's going to be the big question now. Can Fnatic perfectly execute the next team fight and actually take down EVS.
Where the biggest gold lead is found, around 4,000 gold between the two 80 carries, and that's with a cheaper build on the side of Slay. So he's in a fantastic spot. Baron setup's been extended. It spawns in 15 seconds.
Yep.
Sneaking a ward in there. We see 2 blue trinkets, one of them on cooldown. We do see Sivir with another one.
So 4-item Ezreal, 3-item Sivir. This is now all about, as you mentioned, Bob Smithy, the Baron set up a duel in this side there right now. Stark's going to outplay the barrels, and they're just waiting to rush the Baron. It's not even spawned yet, but now they're going to go for it here. And Fnatic are so far away. They're going for a collapse on Gnar as the trade. A kill for Baron. This is certainly a positive trade for EVOS. Whippo gets the kill with help from Hylissang, but no one is around to stop this Baron. Honestly, the vision setup was too all-consuming, so Fnatic looking for what they can get secondarily. It's a kill, and it's one turret.
Yeah, EVOS, they know there's still no QSS on these carries, so if Fnatic shows up, we just grab them and kill them at the Baron itself, and that's why Fnatic decided to make the play against Stark. Now we have multiple lanes being pushed in, all the way down to the base of Fnatic with these buffed up minions. Gotta wait 25 seconds for Stark, though.
Consolation prizes may be really all that Fnatic have to look forward to, and their fans as well. The kill there onto Stark, potentially a playoff game later today, depending on the result of Liquid versus RNG. Fnatic have had such a lot to cheer about this tournament, but now it's all about the clutch, and they were heavily expected to take down EVOS in this game.
Well, Slay has 1,080 damage ultimates, and now actually has a Gunblade to complete the nice little mix of this.
Okay.
Instinctively, I don't think I love it because he's got lifesteal already, but it is a nice damage spike and it's some crowd control to help dives, I suppose.
Yeah, and the AP also is useful with some of your scalings in there, but it feels like a win more item in this case for himself. But there is, of course, not a lot of tanks. You got to get through it, so he doesn't really need a last whisper at least.
It's definitely something that Korean solo queue has been enjoying, who have insane life leech up abilities. We're hearing an ult.
Ooh, flash out from Ron OP. You can see that damage still there for Caps, and as we mentioned, Reckless is on 3 items as well. It's about how these team fights can be navigated. Certainly more gold, more items, and a buff on the one side. Finds Hylissang QSS out, but that's going to be the kill. He was isolated by himself fighting for wards, and the kill comes up for free.
Oh, that's a good start now. EVOS should be able to get into the base of Fnatic, knock down that first turret. Slay on his full build here. Can even jump in and take a few hits from the turret and just heal up on a single Q, smacking into a minion.
Yeah, a long time to bring out the side lanes.
Oh, that damage up, but now he might have to burn flash to get away. Caps wants to show up the pillar in there and has the cooldown reduction to come back over the wall, stays alive. Cannon Barrage gets some poke, but this is a 4v5 for Fnatic. You can see that damage not that high against Yijin. As the siege continues, his turret likely to fall. Starks putting on the side, not yet found by Caps. He drives only a minion, and that turret's going to fall now onto the inhibitor. Fnatic will have to back away off this one. Give up one more part of their base. 5 seconds on the Hylissang respawn might signal the retreat for EVOS. They've got a Cloud Drake alive to stack 3 and 2. Or they might stay for the siege, but their health bar is a little bit lower. Stark only at 1/2.
No reason to back off. They keep pushing up. The damage not going through the tanks yet.
Oh, good Black Shield keeps Warzone able to walk away cleanly. Slay almost finds it. Arkin shifts out and gets the damage up to find the kill. Hylissang dropping yet again. Still 5v4 now inside the base with the Baron buff on, and they've got time about 30 seconds, 50 seconds of this Baron buff. Trade of spells almost gets one more to pick off. And now look on the side lane. Whippo very low. Slay really playing aggressively onto this one. Finds another Q, forces them back as the turrets are starting to fall. EVOS looking to end the tournament on a win. They've picked up Broxa as well. Only 3 left to defend Fnatic's honor, or they will drop to 4 and 6. The turrets are falling. One last hard engage as Whippo's forced to run onto the Nexus turrets. They're going to fall. They picked off almost everyone. Reckless alone with a single assist and no deaths, but his Nexus will fall, and that's the part that matters. EVOS find their second win.
And I'm giving my MVP to Yijin. Early game, there was a lot of pressure in the mid lane from Caps, but he knew, if I just go mid and stop Caps from getting far ahead, then the rest of Fnatic's comp is scaling. The GP top lane and the Sivir bot lane. So when he shut down that mid lane with Warzone, it bought so much time for EVOS to suddenly start taking control off the map, and they used that very effectively to then continue snowballing.
And their execution against Fnatic 2 times. The first time in the split push, not to a victory. This time in the poke comp in the mid lane. Like you mentioned, Yijin, whose mentality had to be in shatters after the last couple of performances where he was really disseminated by enemy junglers. They all reload, they all say it's all about just this game, and then we go home. They go home with a victory and a bit more pride.
And we see another Israel game where you get to that mid game, you get your 2 items, and you just start making plays around it. He took down the outer turret, and the first big team fight around the Baron was huge for EVOS. He also ended up the game here on the Ezreal from Slay's side, dealing 25k damage, which, if you look at Warzone on the Cassiopeia, he did 9k. Huge difference between the AD carries. Reckless sitting on 11 on his own side, so he never got online. He got to 3 items when the game was basically over.
Yeah, and the really sad thing about that is I don't think Fnatic ever got the chance to play a real team fight. Hillsong got picked off before the middle inhibitor went down. Then they fight for the top inhibitor when the health bars are already low, and yet again, off in the side lanes. Slay makes really big plays, and the Ezreal actually finds an isolated 1v1 and able to kite it back, so I really do like how he played it on the Ezreal. Also, of course, mistakes from Hillsong.
And the standings implications are so large now. North America really could make that surprising run and actually make it all the way to the top 4. A date against RNG, that's a tricky one.
Yeah, Fnatic are going to be RNG's biggest fans right now. They have to beat Liquid, otherwise Liquid take the spot with a win. Either way, we're going to head now down to the State Farm Analyst Desk for more on that game.
Thank you very much, Freak. With no chance at the semifinals and with only pride to play for, EVOS come out and they hand Fnatic a loss here to make things even more interesting heading into the final stretch of the day. And I mean, again, EU fans are going to stand aghast at how this happened.
Oh, I don't think they wanted it to be this interesting.
No, I can confirm that they didn't want it to be that interesting.
But huge credit to EVOS right there. And it wasn't just the fact that it was Stark again, because Stark actually got shut out quite early on in the Gnar.
He
was
slammed.
exactly repeatedly ganked, put onto the back foot, but Slay now having his time to really shine. I know that Deficio highlighted Yijin down there in the jungle, but for me, it was all about that Ezreal.
We keep seeing Fnatic jump out to these good mid and top side advantages early on in the game. And right at the very start, there was actually a failed invade when EVOS was trying to split the map that set their jungler behind. The first kill went over to Fnatic. It looked like it could have been one of those games where they just steamroll EVOS, but the lack of pressure that Fnatic has been able to generate in the draft bottom lane, like there's no way Sivir Braum actually beats Ezra Morgana, really cost them because they weren't able to play a pressure draft. It simplified Skarner. He just had to go mid lane and gank Caps, who was not respecting the Skarner, and they completely lost control of the game.
And I think that not respecting the Skarner was such a key part for me because it's fine if your bottom lane doesn't have pressure. When Gangplank is slamming a Gnar in a 1v1, Caps is pushing Warzone in under his throat, almost solo killing him, multiple times. They had so much pressure in those solo lanes, but if you don't, A, counter gank those, B, get vision and actually protect them, or C, just kind of have the sixth sense to actually back off when he could be around, then you're going to be giving over kill after kill. So no matter how much better Caps is than Warzone, as an individual, he gave over so many free kills to Yijin. That allowed Warzone to stay in the game. Same thing for Stark. I mean, he should not have had any relevance in this game with how it started out. Being, half the CS of a Gangplank who outscales you, you shouldn't be able to do anything, but he was gifted multiple free kills.
I mean, that said, I understand that, the breaking point definitely happened in between, the jungle and the mid lane and what was happening there, not shutting down Warzone, but I keep looking back at the draft, and I keep seeing these Sivir Brahms when caster supports have been such a big priority. A lot of people are going to focus fire in on Reckless here, and I do think that there is an effective champion pool issue that needs to be discussed. The fact that they can't use a threat like Kaiser or haven't been able to showcase it at MSI, but also Hilly. The fact that he's not getting these priority picks into the bot lane. If that's a team decision or if that's a bot lane decision, I don't know. But it just seems like a fundamental flaw for Fnatic because they keep losing with the strategy. The games aren't going long enough for that Sivir to meet that 500 CS win condition.
That said, the game was relatively tense for a solid period of time until the Baron dance in which EVOS comes out ahead very smartly.
Yeah, looking at this, you can see they just peel right off the Baron.
Wow.
Big disruption by Stark right there. And everyone gets so low from that one ricochet, but because they're able to get the kills and because they've had so much Drake control, in part because Fnatic has had no bottom side pressure, the Ocean Drakes healed them up a good amount, and they're able to re-engage with the teleport.
Yeah, the teleport here was so good from Stark, kind of pulling them in, as you said, double Ocean to be able to buy you some time, and then Stark straight up coming in. He has the Frozen Mallet. You get one auto off there, you're going to be able to chase him down.
Yeah, and credit again to EVOS to not overcommit to the situation and to wait for Stark to get into position. Because throughout the tournament, we have seen them get antsy around these clutch plays. And like you said, if they go in and Reckless just hits one ricochet, everyone explodes.
Right, but more important than the game itself is what the game means for the remainder of the tournament. So I want to take another look at the standings and break down what this means not only for Fnatic, but the remaining teams to play.
I mean, Fnatic started the day with their destiny in their own hands. Now it is no longer the case, right? They are depending on RNG beating TL, which certainly is possible. RNG has been looking incredibly good, and if that happens, that would then force a tiebreaker between North America, between Europe.
Right, and that means for NA fans, hopes are rising as Team Liquid, who started the day without their own destiny in their own hands, now have it entirely.
I can imagine some NA fans waking up, checking their phone, being like, ooh, the Flash Rules post-game thread, that's interesting. Oh, they won. Then they turn on the stream and they see they're in a tiebreaker game. That's actually very possible for what could happen.
That could happen just a bit
later. You weren't
today.
expecting that when the day started, especially in that fashion. Or they could be playing against Uzi. They have already beaten RNG earlier in this tournament.
And we're actually guaranteed tiebreakers at this point. If my foldy sheet is telling me the truth here, we are going to have
generally accurate.
we are going to have 1 or 2 tiebreakers depending on the the following results. But that means there are going to be these tiebreakers, for first or second, or if it's for fourth, we don't know yet. But definitely a lot on the line still here.
Yeah, the next game is big. It's a battle for first place. We'll break it down on the other side of a break, though. For now, we're going to head it over to Shox, who's standing by with EVOS' top laner.
Well, thank you very much, guys. I'm here with Stark after they beat Fnatic. Now, Stark, you did say that you guys were going to beat NA and EU at least. Has MS